Welcome back to Daily Driven Alpha. Right, today we're moving forward on the teardown of the front suspension, and really what we've done is we've just broken down the front two hubs, taken the discs off, pulled the centre hub off with the bearings in, pulled the spline out, the half shaft there, and the cover, given those a bit of a blast. We'll yet to clean those up further. They'll get painted black. We've chosen to clean these up and paint them silver. Didn't really have to, but we just want to protect them a little bit from rust, and they'll go back on. You won't see them, but they'll sit nicely behind the set of wheels that we're putting on. What I wanted to do was just show you how quick and easy it is to actually pull these front hubs apart, obviously out of the car. And really the tools that we've used today: small hammer, some pliers to pull the split pin, flathead screwdriver, 25mm, a 17mm and a 10mm socket. We've used the open weave polymer disc that on a drill that I've mentioned before. This really rips the rust straight off the steel. Really does a great job. And then we've just used a couple of wire wheels to get into some of the hard to reach little areas in here around the disc, etc., and around the studs, and this one on the inside of the actual disc itself. So really, just to pull this apart, all you need to do is gently punch this grease cap off. It's just lightly pressed on, and knock that off. As you can see, we've already started to partially disassemble it, just so it's easier to show you how we're doing that. Taking the liberty of pulling the split pin out. I'm sure you don't want to watch that coming out. Now on these, each spline on each side is threaded. One's left-hand thread and one's right-hand thread. So this particular one, while we were thinking that we're taking it off anti-clockwise, wrong, taking it off clockwise. So castle nut comes off, and that'll get cleaned up and reused. Right, a couple of flathead screws that are sitting in here that hold this against the actual disc itself. Just unscrew those, and we'll keep them, clean them up for later. Now what we have is we've got the steel spacer here that presses the outside bearing into the race, and then you've got an inner bearing that sits further down in here. I've just wedged this up so it's a bit easier to pull it off one-handed. So what you do is then you just lift that straight up, and you'll notice as we do that, in here is the steel spacer, and then we've got the bearing itself in here. Now I would suggest it's probably going to be prudent for us to replace this once we've cleaned it up and get going. So now you can see we've got the spline there, and the disc itself is sitting freely, so this can just get lifted straight up and off. So that's what we ended up with this morning, and with a little bit of rust removal and cleaning it and prepping it ready for paint, these discs come up really nicely. You'll notice that the disc itself, even though there's just some minor grooving here, we'll give that a little bit more of a turn. We won't actually turn it on a lathe, or we won't take it to be turned. We'll clean that up a little bit further. These discs are in good condition, and we'll go back on the car. So here we have the inner bearing, and that is held in place by a insert here, and we will leave that in there. We're not going to try and pull that out. Clean that up. So you can start to see where we are. Now what we have left here these components here, you'll need 17mm sockets onto these nylock bolts here, 10mm here. These will just come straight out there for the brakes, and then you'll notice this component here is bolted on with these. Just a word of warning, if you're doing this in a vise and you take these and the bolts out, this component will drop. So always work defensively when you're doing this. Make sure your feet are out of the way, especially when you're undoing things. Make sure you're holding things so that they don't move on you inadvertently. So other than that, I mean, in essence, apart from actually undoing those and using with tools and using the screwdrivers, etc., just that quick process there is what it takes to pull this down, apart and get it ready for cleaning. So don't be scared to pull it apart yourself and have a look. Front wheel bearings aren't expensive and fairly easy to install, especially if you need to re-grease them. So that really gives you an idea of how to pull down that front hub, and hope you found that interesting. If you do find these videos interesting, please like them, please subscribe, and please share them with the rest of the Alfa community. Thanks for watching.